Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Greatly Destined Podcast. This is episode 6. I am here with a very special guest today. This is a gentleman who deeply inspires me. This is a gentleman who shows you that there is nothing in life that you can't do. This is an entrepreneur, an owner of seven different businesses here in the city of Milwaukee. Tony, you are doing amazing, man. You inspire me. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's deeply appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. The hospitality as we hear has been awesome.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Can you just go through your different businesses here in Milwaukee? What kind of inspired you to build them? What got you into them and where they're located?
Yeah, so our main business that everything started with when I turned 21 was real estate wholesaling, which is our biggest money generator to this day. We'll kind of dive deep into that. I have a pet grooming salon with my wife in West Dallas. That's mainly her business. I'm just an investor in it. But she does a great job of running that business. That business is booked out till March, so you can't even get an appointment from now until then. I have a software company. We've grown that in the last 8 months to over 350 users. So that has grown tremendously. With now added just now added blogs about a couple of days ago, and so I'm trying to continue to grow that business as much as possible. But we have had so much growth there. I have a mentorship company. We have over 150 students across the country, some making multiple six figures, a year, and doing some amazing things all over the country. Literally Arizona, Texas, California. I have a lot of students in California, Wisconsin, everywhere. So that's been successful. We do Hustle Harder events. Those are pretty big events. We run multiple six figures through that. Some days I don't count that as a business because those only happen twice a year, but they are definitely generators of income. And I do affiliates. I wouldn't count that as a business, but we definitely do affiliates. And we have our community, which of students. So I'm trying to blank. I think I'm blanking out. That's pretty much. Oh, and our taco trucks. Our taco trucks have done really well. I just gifted one to my dad, or give him half the equity of that business. So that's been doing great too.
Talk about your taco trucks. I'm a big taco truck fan now, man. Ever since I moved to Milwaukee, taco trucks are first of all, isn't that a lot of competition? I see taco trucks everywhere. There's never enough taco trucks, don't get me wrong, because they're always have people in the line. But ever since I moved to Milwaukee, I've been on tacos like crazy. You guys also have nachos on that truck?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah? Where are you guys located?
So we have our main one, which is, or at least the one I gave my dad. That one is on Sunny Slope and National, across from Vasa Fitness in New Berlin. We have another one on 68th and State, and then there's one that's in Wauwatosa, and then there's another one on Rogers and High 100. So the Romero's brand has grown tremendously. And then with my uncles now, buying a restaurant out now it's going to be opening in about 2 weeks or so. So that's been an amazing thing to see.
You were talking about you started, one of your first jobs was being a cook, right?
Yeah. So when I, before getting into real estate, I was a cook. I was the first cook at under the age of 18 for Applebee's. My uncles were able to kind of pull some triggers.
Wait, what do you mean you were the first cook for that one location, or just
in general? Because they didn't allow...
In all Applebee's franchises?
Yeah, because they didn't allow anybody under 18 to cook. Yeah, so my uncles, they've been in the restaurant industry far longer than I have, probably 20-ish years. And they realized my hunger. I didn't just want to be a host. I didn't just want to stand in front. I wanted to make real money. I wanted to make 15 plus, which at my age, that's real money to me. And so they were able to, get it to the higher ups, and I was able to get hired. And now you're able to work at 16 because of that.
Mm-hmm. Were you always, so talk about your work ethic. Did you always have a good work ethic growing up?
Yeah. So I definitely did. I've always worked hard, throughout high school. I would actually go to school, get home, work a part-time job every other day, and then I would go home again. I would sleep a couple hours, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, and then I would go to work in Kenosha. I would get in at 10 p.m. That's when my shift would start. I'd work third shift until 5, 6 a.m., and then I'd get out and go straight to school.
You grew up in Kenosha?
No, I grew up in Milwaukee, so I take the drive every day by myself.
Just for work?
Just for work, third shift. I mean, I was making, 17, 18 bucks
During
an hour.
high school?
During high school, yes.
That's insane.
Yeah, and during summers, I mean, every summer since I was 14, 15, I mean, I was working every single day nonstop.
Was this for investing into your future? Was this for like you needed a family situation and you needed to help out?
One, I have an addiction to working. I love working. Like this last week, I've probably worked, 100 plus. Maybe not that many, but like definitely at least 80 hours.
It's literally only 3:00 and you've been at like 4 different places just today.
Yeah, like we had our podcast, we have meetings. After this, our day, starts 6, 7 a.m. and then it goes on till midnight every single day. There's always things to do. I mean, I have students. I have student calls till 12, 1 a.m. A lot of my students are in California, so the time difference, we have to accommodate for that.
So how did you get, I don't want to say clientele, but how are you able to build a network of students looking to you for seeking knowledge?
Yeah, a lot of podcasting. So as I started to grow, I did $500,000 my first year in wholesaling, which is extremely impressive. My first deal, which I got 4 days in, I made $25,000 on. So because of that growth at that age, it's really good for podcasts to put that out there because a lot of clicks come to it, being able to get, 21-year-old making $500,000. And the reality is I did make that much. So that was even better to them because it was credible.
On the podcast, like that would be the title?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like 21-year-old makes $500,000 in 1 year. And so that blew me up.
So all of these, how can you spot the difference between an actual guru versus a fake guru on social media, on YouTube?
The only way you're going to be able to is to like ask for some sort of HUDs, some sort of actual
see what they've actually done. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've had. Do
you think there are a ton of real estate gurus out there online who are selling courses and making a lot of money online, but you look at the work they've done, they've sold no properties?
Yeah, I mean,
do you think that's actually out there?
Yeah, I mean, I know guys and girls who they've done a deal and just one deal, and they're like, hey, I got students, and so or they they've started a brand prior to even doing any deals, and so now with TikToks and Reels being out there and the access that you have to them and anybody being able to blow up without any type of credibility. It exists, but it doesn't just exist in our realm. It exists in credit. It exists in e-com.
As long as what they're saying is still applicable, it is still the truth. It doesn't matter if they're applying it necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, if I sit here and
as long as they're not giving you bullshit information, yeah.
Right. If I sit here and I tell you I made $10 million last year and I look at a straight face and you ask me every question, I answer it correctly the way it sounds legit, I mean, you're not going to think twice about it. Mm-hmm. But that's just how, social media works nowadays.
Yeah,
it's only going to continue to get worse and worse, but it exists in every industry for sure.
In every industry. Did you always? I asked you if you always had a good work ethic growing up, but I want to ask you, were you a good employee? Because having a good work ethic and being a good employee are two different things. Were you a good employee before you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So as an employee, I always had the hard work, so I was always trying to be the best. I always wanted to outwork everybody else. I wanted to impress my bosses every single time and grow within a company. That was at least my ultimate goal. I really just wanted to make more money. So I knew if I worked hard, it could come down to that. It obviously is a long run that you have to, really work hard, maybe 6 months, a year before they actually say, hey, we'll give you another buck. And even then it becomes, still kind of hard to do. But I was always the best. I was always extremely fast.
Oh, he said he was always the best. I love the confidence.
Yeah, I mean, nobody could keep up with me. Yeah. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. The guy next to me, unless they're extremely professional,
it wasn't just with being a cook. It was just with
everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean everything. Everything I dedicated myself to, and being that I'm such an addict to working.
When you see somebody who can't work if they're not passionate about something, is that a red flag?
When they can't work?
Like being a bad employee. Let's say somebody's a bad employee. They're not passionate about just any basic job.
From what perspective? A business owner's perspective?
From a business owner's perspective, yeah.
So like our model now.
Let's say if you worked at Walmart or something, like you're a 20-year-old kid, you're working at Walmart, but you have all these entrepreneur ideas, and like you're sort of applying. You're a wantrepreneur at this point, because to get to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a wantrepreneur.
Yeah.
But you have these entrepreneur ideas that you haven't ventured out into yet, but your work ethic at jobs like Walmart is just trash, because that's just not what you're passionate about. Is that kind of a red flag to a business owner's perspective?
I mean,
like, do you see that, and would you see that and think, oh yeah, if he's doing this on Walmart, there's no way he can own his own business?
Yeah, so it depends. You know, I'll give you a few different answers. So from Walmart, let's just say I'm thinking about it from Walmart owner's perspective, it's not really going to matter, because the tasks that are needed to be done every day don't really require somebody to be extremely intelligent. You could be the dumbest guy out there and probably still, and I don't mean that to offend anybody, but that's just the reality. It's like, it doesn't really take a whole lot of skill. Now, from a perspective of like us being in sales, or just or being a smaller company as well, when you're a company like Walmart, sure, people are going to talk crap and everything, your employees, but it's too big for it to like, eventually it could crumble, but it's just so big. It's going to be even that, like, people just need that job. Whereas with a smaller company, you don't want a lot of bad talk. So yeah, you don't want people that are going from one job to the next, to the next, to the next.
Got you.
You definitely want people that, for us, for example, we're only going to start hiring college graduates as of next year for our real estate company. Reason being is college graduates, they do a great job of wanting that, like, one, they follow the rules. Two, they complete everything. They made it all the way through college. Three, they make great employees. They follow the rules, like I said. They show up on time. They care about growth within their business. Their goal is to, continue to scale.
They're company people.
Exactly, company people. And they love security. They love knowing that they can, work, get their paycheck, and be okay.
Got you. So when somebody is a little bit hesitant to hiring a non-college graduate, it's not necessarily because they don't believe that they're just as capable as this college graduate, or they're not as smart as this college graduate, but it's more so they feel like the college graduate will be more reliable because they've proven that they're more dedicated to stability.
Yeah, a lot of people that are like entrepreneurs.
By going to college. Entrepreneurship, you are not dedicated to stability. You're all about like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing which one sticks, and you're picking things up and dropping them, and that you're moving all around and all over the place, and it's not a lot of stability.
Well, they'll take risk, and so they're able. For example, you have some sort. You have entrepreneurial. I guess what would you call it? Do you just have that entrepreneurial drive in you? If I hire you,
instinct.
You're gonna. If I hire you, you're gonna. Let's just say you're an amazing freaking sales guy, amazing. You're going to come to my business, you're going to learn the business, and then you're going to leave and start your own. Because you're going to realize the simplicity of it, and you're not afraid of risk. So you're going to go and do it. Sure, there may be some times where you got to eat ramen noodles for 3 months while you're building it. There may be days where you're sleeping on the couch just because you're literally putting in hours and hours and hours at your office, but you're going to do it. Whereas somebody else,
they don't want that.
They're not going to go through that struggle. They like the comfort. And it's not going to be like that for everybody.
People who go seek that college degree, that's a sign that you are chasing that comfort, because
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a sign, but there are a lot of common characteristics, and those are some of them. Because I don't want to put everybody in a pool. For example, if I would have gone to college, I would have been probably a terrible college student, but I still would have probably finished just because my parents wanted me to. With the best grades, not necessarily, but thankfully, I didn't go that route. Never even went to college.
Why do you say thankfully?
Because right now, when you're young, and actually, I just spoke at a college, University of Whitewater, like a couple of days ago, and that was my first time ever stepping on a campus, a college campus ever. I've never even stepped on one.
Really?
Yeah, but if right now, while I'm young, and this is good for all the young viewers, when you're young, you can take the absolute most amount of risk because there's no car bills. Maybe you have some, right?
Me and my friends talk about this all the time.
Yeah. I mean, if there's no, maybe you have rent, maybe you don't, depending on if you live with your parents. You don't pay for mortgages, you don't pay for insurance, you don't pay for all these things, right? The younger you are, the less you're going to pay. As you continue to grow, you might add on the car bill, you might add on your gas, right? Because your parents are going to be less and less on what they're making you purchase. Mm-hmm. But when you're young, I don't have kids, for example. That's a big one. So when you have kids, there's a lot that they have to depend on just for their well-being. And so all of those things that start accumulating, your mortgage, your kids, the food bills, everything, all that stuff, insurance, that if you're making $4,000 a month and your expenses are $3,500 a month, there's no way you can take risk. There's no way you can take time off because you're barely breaking even. You need to focus on your family until it is stable. And because you work at a job that's only going to give you $1 or $2 more every couple of years or however, it's not going to make a massive difference. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, most people that don't know how to spend their money and they don't know how to budget, that if you pay them more, they're going to just spend more and they're not going to save more.
Exactly. And that just ends up that's what ends up happening every single time. I remember I was having a conversation with my mom yesterday or a couple of days ago, actually. And we were talking about college graduates. And I haven't completed my college degree yet, but fortunately I went to school for journalism. Fortunately, I was able to get a job in the field without one. And she's been trying to convince me to go back, and I intend on going back to complete it and finish. And she's been trying to convince me to go back, but she also has been saying a lot that she wants her kids to be entrepreneurs, to think big and dream big, and that's what I've always wanted for myself. And that was part of the reason. As soon as I got that job with PBS, I'm looking at my options. I'm like, I'm kind of already in this business already. It's like, why do I have to finish this now?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Isn't that the point of going to college, to get that entry position? If I'm already have the entry position, I don't see why I have to finish this now. And this isn't my main goal. This is just kind of like what I love to do. Is I love being a journalist. I love journalism. I love talking to the community and telling stories. It's literally what I'm doing right now, talking to the community. I love it so much that I decided to do it on my own too. And she wants us to be an entrepreneur and like make lots of money. She said, I'm talking millions of dollars. Like, you have to like really dream big and think big. And I agree with her. It's just, if you're telling me to go to college and take three more years off of my life, invest 3 more years into this thing, all of that time, all of that money, that's just going to make being an entrepreneur so much harder. So unfortunately, it's kind of contradictory. Or am I wrong for that, do you think?
So I guess that kind of puts into perspective my point of view. I did not want to go to college because I hated school, even though I did. I also hated school.
It just has to make sense. Like, I don't know how much sense it would make.
Like, I was able to take risk, but like, college isn't all bad. Like, there are benefits and assets to being part of it, like growing your network, having especially in your industry where you're looking to be a journalist. That resume, I'm sure, plays a big role as far as how companies take you seriously. And based on what college you go to, because I've spoken to guys who own, different industries that have, are college role related, where if they go to a specific university, and they see that on the resume, they're just crumpling that up and throwing it out the trash.
Because the school is not a big enough name?
It could be, it just maybe they have had 4 bad candidates from that specific school already, and they don't want to go through it again. I mean, I'm not going to name any names of anybody, but because I'm sure that's illegal, it's discriminating. but I'm sure it definitely plays a role as far as, the asset, depending on because if you're looking to be a doctor or a lawyer, college, that is your route you have to go through.
Yeah.
So it just depends on,
And that's what I was getting at. Like, if I'm not trying to be a doctor or lawyer or anything that you specifically need. Like, there have been journalists on major news networks. Scott Pelley, and I believe that's what his name is, the former anchor for CBS, like CBS this evening, like the major primetime evening news, never went to college. He just did it straight out of high school. He joined a local newspaper. He joined a local newspaper in his town. He did broadcasting internships, and then he was working on his broadcasting skills through the internships. He made a broadcasting demo. He worked years at a newspaper, so he learned journalistic integrity and all of the rules, and he started applying for different broadcasting jobs and local news stations. Eventually, he got his first one, and then after you get that entry position, people tend to ask less, where did you go to college? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation where you can get that entry position without having to go to college, I feel like the better investment would just be not to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, so like going into that example, let's just say I am a student, thinking about it from that perspective. I am somebody that maybe doesn't have that college experience or doesn't have a college resume, right? But I want to get into that type of industry. One, connections are going to be important,
Absolutely.
just like any other industry. That could mean going out and networking and just getting to know some of these people and becoming friends with them over time. And then two, people think that because they're going to apply, like college isn't all bad. Some people want to just live comfortably and have their degree, but just thinking that you're better than somebody else because you went to college doesn't mean crap, because it's not true. So in that particular position, people think that because maybe they have a college degree that they can just apply to 2 places and then they'll get accepted. And if you're in that position where you need that job and you don't have anything to back it, you're going to need 1, connections, and 2, you're going to need to apply to maybe, 10, 12, 100, however many it takes companies so that one of them says yes, because it's a numbers game. Everything is a numbers game. The more you apply to, it's only really going to be one out of 10 are actually going to take it serious and reach out. So if the more you do it, the more opportunities you're going to be able to create.
And that's
for
with
yourself.
anything, exactly.
And competition too. Imagine if I'm somebody that wants a job and I apply at 20 different companies and 5 of them reach back out and 5 of them want me based on my experience. They're all going to offer different numbers, and now I can use that to my advantage to get more money.
Everything is just a game of probability. I was talking to a friend last week, and I was talking about the detailing company, because there's some people who start small detailing company, like auto detailing, like they'll drive to your location and they'll clean your car for you.
Smart.
And I'm like, very smart, because first of all, everybody likes their car clean, that fresh feeling. There's a lot of people who have cars. Just look at the streets. Look at your potential clientele right there, millions of cars. And then we were just talking about it, and we were like, everything is probability. If you start a small detailing company, like mobile detailing, you get the equipment, maybe $1,500, $2,000 investment for all your detailing equipment, get 1,000 business cards. If you can't do this, that you're just lazy and you probably shouldn't be into it in the first place. Get 1,000 business cards and put 1,000 business cards on 1,000 windshields all over the city of Milwaukee. There's no way you're not getting at least 25 out of 1,000 people calling you back, like, to come clean their car.
Right.
You feel me? And 25, that is a chunk of people. But why was that possible? Based off of the 1,000 people you advertised to, just playing that game of probability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's probability. Everything is definitely probability. Let's talk about real estate. Real estate is a business, is a field that kind of goes up and down. Is that frustrating for you? No? Why not?
Because you just got to pivot.
Yeah.
Everything, it doesn't matter with the good and the bad times. You just have to know how to maneuver. Just because it's bad times maybe that strategy is bad. You can always change it and go a different route, but you have to pivot. So if you're understanding the market, if you have relationships with people that are big in the industry, that can be mentors to you, then you're going to know what to do in order to be able to pivot. And we talk about this all the time. You just have to, like right now with the market going down, you just have to pivot and do other strategies. You have to get better at certain things. Like right now, sales are extremely important, whereas, back in the day they weren't.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about, I remember we were talking about this before we started rolling. You said you were a Mexican, right?
Yes.
How has that molded you into the person and the entrepreneur you are today?
Well, seeing where my parents came from, being able to visit Mexico and seeing that they came from nothing, that has definitely motivated me to just shoot for the stars and change the generation. Both my parents never went to college. I actually that doesn't even fit because I didn't go to college.
Yeah.
But the fact that, everything that they've done to get to where they are now, to give my brother and I the opportunity. They put us through an amazing private grade school. They put us through a very expensive high school that was private as well.
Oh, shit. So did they want you to go on to college? It sounds like
that was
their goal for you.
Not going to college was a very big disappointment, yes.
Yeah.
It took a long time to impress my parents. That's why I've built what I've built so fast. I mean, I have so many different businesses making, well over $1 million. Over $2 million.
Did that demoralize you at all when they were disappointed that you didn't go to college, or did you always know that you had a plan at the end of the day?
For me, it wasn't going to be the thing. I knew I was going to figure out something. I just didn't know what. And then when I found real estate, the thing about real estate is I made that first check, $25,000. I knew that it was finally something that was legit. I had spent the last, because I have always been a workaholic. So the last year I had spent, so I got my deal in June. The year prior, that full year, I spent my time working 2 full-time jobs, sometimes a part-time job on top of that. I made $35,000 that year. I just made on 4 hours, I made $35,000 that year prior. Just on 4 hours of my first real estate deal, I made $25,000.
What do you mean 4 hours?
Yeah, I mean, it really was only 4 hours of work. It was an hour calling the seller and being on the phone with them, an hour walking the property, an hour marketing to buyers, and an hour showing the property to buyers.
How do you get into real estate?
Well, you learn on YouTube or you hire a mentor.
Okay, but what is like the legal steps to? Because I can't just go put on a blazer.
I don't
go put on a blazer.
None of my team have real. We're not agents. We don't have real estate licenses.
How do you make money in real estate without having a real estate license?
Because we're not selling when we're not representing the seller at any point. So what we're doing is we're looking for motivated sellers, anybody that's in a distressed situation, giving them an offer that's below market value, and then taking that property that. So for example, if you're the seller. You're the seller, and let's just say Jimmy, right? Let's just think of a random name. Jimmy's the buyer. I would call you. So when we call you, we don't know anything about you yet. We can do our research on you very, very, very quickly within 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, so it takes about 30 seconds on that call to actually figure out if you're interested in selling that property. Within 30 seconds, I'll know if you're going to tell me to F off. Mm-hmm. So within those 30 seconds, I'm just trying to figure it out while I'm doing research on you. If you, after a minute, after 30 seconds, you're like, I'm interested, then we'll start digging into you. It takes me another 30 seconds to know what you purchased your property for, if you have a mortgage, if you have liens, how much in liens, how much in mortgage, how much your monthly payment is, how much you still owe, what bank you got it with, your interest rate, if you're behind, your judgments. If you have a child support lien, all of that stuff I can figure out almost immediately just by literally looking up your address because of the softwares that we have. So I can figure out who lives in your house, who your siblings are, who your parents are, who your grandparents are. I can know if I just click on your property and you own it, I can check within 10 seconds every single property that you own. That's why sometimes the seller might have only 2 properties. I know how much they owe in equity, how much equity they own, everything, right? So we might call a seller and say, I'm not interested in selling this one, but I'm interested in selling the other one. And then we're just like, the one on 76th Street? And they're like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. How did he know? Right? Because we already have all that within our reach. Mm-hmm. That's how we even access the phone numbers, because we're calling people that aren't even listing. We're calling everybody that's not on the market, everybody off market, tens of thousands of people every single either week or bi-weekly. Mm-hmm. So we call you, you're the seller. We say, hey, we've done our research. We know what the property's selling for. And let's just say our number that needs to make sense is $60,000. So I give you an offer for $60,000. As an investor, I sign a contract with you as an investor. Then I wholesale that property out. So then buyer, I list it to the buyer I say, hey, send the property out to all my buyers. I say $80,000 for sale. One of them bites. All right, he goes, sees the property, he approves, he likes it. All right, he'll come back and say, all right, I'll buy it from you for $80,000. And they know how much we're making. They know I'm making that 20 generally. Depends on the relationship. Sometimes we can hide it, but then we have to pay an additional $1,500 at closing for it to be a double close. But that buyer will then buy us out of that deal because they're going to make profit on that deal. So we're the middleman in the transaction.
What's a mistake that most real estate agents make in the beginning?
Well, I'm not an agent.
Or not, I'm sorry, people in real estate.
Not growing fast enough, I think, is one mistake. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people when you're in school, right, everything kind of goes back to school. And I'm not talking college. I'm talking grade school. I'm talking high school. You don't learn anything about taxes. You learn nothing about LLCs. You learn nothing about employee management, hiring, firing. You learn nothing about, different characteristics of employees, nothing, right? And so I feel like a lot of people, even when they've made good money, they're scared of that growth. And even if they're doing good, and I've heard
people are scared of their growth.
Because imagine if you're making, let's just say $10,000 a month, right? And you bring somebody on and you have to pay them $5,000 a month and then extra money on marketing. You might only be left over with $2,000, $3,000, because you now have to feed another person, right? And you can't just do them dirty. They rely on you to pay their bills, take care of their family, everything. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, there's maybe less profit, but that's how you grow. You have to make those investments in people to continue to grow your business. Mm-hmm. And so that's hard for people to do, because they're like, well, I'm going to get less of the pie. I've seen it happen with my uncles, with people that I know, where they're like, I'd rather just work in this position as long as possible because I'm saving money. Mm-hmm. But in reality is you're not growing fast enough. Mm-hmm. You're losing out on so many opportunities because you just want to be there present. Mm-hmm. If I'm paying somebody else, I can now focus my assets, my skills on what really matters, mm-hmm. which are higher things. So we have a lot of employees in the Philippines. We have employees in India. I have employees in Pakistan. They do a lot of the tedious tasks. So, for example, answering phone calls, organizing calendars, sending emails. All that stuff is programmed in another country. And the reason why is because my labor is cheap. A lot of people want the perfect employee. My VAs in the Philippines aren't all perfect, but they get the job done.
Yeah.
And that's all I care about. I want them to show up. I want them to have a good work ethic, and I want them to complete projects and understand what what they need to do. And so,
why do most companies, because you said you get your guys from the Philippines, why do you guys go outside of the country to employ?
Because you're not going to work for $3 an hour. Oh. $3 to $6 an hour is what I pay. My highest paid employees make $6.
It's quite frustrating when I call a company and I'm just trying to get to figure out why my bill mm-hmm. is higher this month and I can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah. A big part of that too, I'm sure, from companies is hiring think about it from a big perspective, right? If the only way you can cancel a subscription with me is to have to call.
Oh my God. You think they do that?
On purpose? Of course. Come on, this is big corporations. They don't want you to leave.
Oh my God.
You're just going to say F this and you're just going to leave it on your bill.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
You always have to think about it from the business perspective.
That makes sense, but that just sounds like stuff that people would say businessmen do, but they people who just hate the rich and they just come up with a bunch of shiesty stuff that businessmen do, which some are probably true and some are probably just pulled out of their ass. You would think that's one of the things that
I'm guessing. I'm not 100%.
Okay, so I guess. It's possible when you say it. It makes so much sense.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but a lot of businesses now have, like Chase, for example. You call Chase, a big corporation. They're not going to have, 7, 8, 10, $12 employees. They're going to have people in the Philippines or people in other countries that, that work hard because they work.
Crazy.
Employees in the Philippines work extremely hard. As long as you set the expectations up and, let them know what their tasks are, they're amazing. So we give them regular bonuses. We treat them well to make sure that they want to stay with us. They love seeing our growth. Hey, happy birthday. Hey, congratulations on your win here. Hey, congratulations on this. They're always supporting your growth.
Mm-hmm. That $25,000 check you initially got, how did you reinvest it?
Immediately into everything. So I got an office. Well, the office I did get from my mom. She was a Mary Kay sales lady. She ended up, it was during the COVID season, so she was quarantining, or however you say it. And she wasn't going to be using her office. So she let me have it for temporarily, but I had to pay $350 fee for that office at that time. The office was pink. And so we had it work in a pink office for a while. But I reinvested into softwares. I reinvested into people, hiring immediately. I hired a team from day one. Mm-hmm. I didn't wait. And there were a lot of mistakes within that process, but I grew so much. And that's why I've now been able to scale so many businesses, because I know how to hire when to hire in order to continue to grow and focus on other tasks. But I invested every single penny back into the business for the next 8 months. Every single piece of, every single penny that came in was going back into the business. Even to this day, I told you, I have a software company. There was a big investment in that business. I have one business partner, Patrick, who is genius, and he manages all the back end. I help with all the front end. Now, thankfully, we've grown to the point where we have sales guys. We have onboarding specialists in the Philippines. Our sales guys are local to the U.S., onboarding specialists in the Philippines. We have developers in Pakistan and India that do all of our coding and website building for us. We have bloggers, I think, in the Philippines as well. I'm not even sure. Patrick kind of handles that. So, what was the question?
No, I was listening. That's why, you got me intrigued. That's why my body language changed. But I was thinking, how do you get these employees? How would you, if somebody liked the idea, how would you get an employee overseas?
You can go through a company. There's Upwork.com. There's Fiverr. With Fiverr, you have to be more careful because Fiverr wants you to stay within their platform. But, going through different agencies and companies, if people want to reach out, you can always connect them with them. That's how we started in the beginning. But Philippines is the biggest call center in the world. And so there's not enough jobs for the amount of VAs that are available. Mm-hmm. And so now we hire through our VAs, and then we train them. Mm-hmm. So I have one VA that trains any incoming VAs. Yes. And so we hire, so now we hire just based on them. But we set up things to make sure that we get good candidates. We don't just hire just to hire. Like, we're going to interview 20 at the same exact time, or 10, in order to be able to get the right person for us, because we want this person to be long-term. Also, when they're referring people, they might be referring family just because they want them to get a job. Mm-hmm. There's a bonus incentive based on how long that VA lasts in our business that goes to the person that referred them. So if that person doesn't last, they don't get a bonus. Yeah. So they're automatically going to want to bring people to us that will last in our business, that we will like. And our employees understand how strict I am with everything, in the process. Mm-hmm. Like, even now with our taco trucks, I am going to have for the summer somebody working. I'm not sure if we're going to do Colombia or Mexico yet. We're still kind of seeing, but we're going to be hiring in Colombia and Mexico for somebody to answer the phone. So, for example, if I'm working as a cashier, right? People think that everything has to be super expensive, like having some extra labor. No, you can have somebody overseas. Let's just say that I'm working, I have a cashier that's working, and her role is to answer the phone calls and attend customers and maybe give the order out the window. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have a big line and somebody's calling, when you miss a phone call, guess what happens?
They might not call back.
They're going to go to the next business because they're hungry. They want stuff now. And everybody, when they want stuff now, they're just going to keep moving down that line. So you're going to lose that customer ultimately. Now, so that's one big loss. So just in losses of people, that's already worth hiring somebody. Then on top of that, let's just say that somebody new with a Mexican taco truck. There's so many different items that to some people maybe just they've never heard of them. And so somebody might say, well, what's this? Well, what's this? What comes with this? What comes with this? What do you recommend? And so maybe that 5-minute conversation when they have somebody at the window they're going to lose out on people are just going to leave. So that's, and there's other things on top of that, as far as tax and management and answering questions and all that stuff that is just so tedious. So we're going to have somebody that's answered in either overseas. I was going to say call center, but it's not really going to be a call center. Overseas in either Mexico or Colombia, and they're going to answer the phone, and then they're going to talk to the customer just like you would if you call Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut started implementing it now. So if you call Pizza Hut, they have VAs now. And
Domino's has been doing that for a while.
Yeah, so they're starting to pick up on this stuff.
That's tough, though. Like,
why?
I remember I ordered a pizza from Domino's one time.
Okay.
And it was taking a little bit longer. I'm trying to call the store thinking I'm going to get somebody here in Milwaukee. I'm going from person to person, and then I end up talking to somebody, and I'm confused because from the conversation, it sounded like I'm trying to get him to remember. Like, yeah, I walked into the store 30 minutes ago. You don't remember me? I was the guy with the green jacket, tall black dude. And he was like, no, I'm in Boston. I'm like, Boston?
And they're probably not in Boston. They're probably, but they're told to say those things.
Oh.
If it's somebody that's like maybe Filipino, it's more likely they're actually in the Philippines.
Okay, I'm like, Boston? Like, I'm just trying to get pizza, man. Like, how'd I get to Boston?
Yeah.
So that can also be frustrating sometimes, I feel like.
Yeah, so obviously,
if it's not done efficiently.
If you're a big corporation, but I mean, think about it. They're a big corporation. What's Domino's, right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to stop going to Domino's because of that?
Probably not.
Because they're a big company, so they don't care. Because when you're big enough and your brand is strong enough, even if you have poor customer service, they're going to keep coming back because they love you. But when you're small like me, yes, there is definitely a lot of things that have to be in order. So one, every phone call is recorded so that my team, my own VAs, go and check on that VA's calls and make sure that we are respectful with customers, all that stuff. Which on top of that, have you ever, I'm sure you've had it where you call somebody, okay, a different restaurant, and they answer, and maybe they've had a bad day. And they say, they've had a bad day as a cashier. Maybe the person right before them that was actually ordering at the window was a Karen. And so now they're answering that customer with an attitude, whereas somebody that's overseas is never going to have that problem.
Got you.
So the reason, do you know why I'm doing Mexico or Colombia instead of the Philippines?
Because they might be more relatable to Americans, I would assume. They understand the culture a little bit more.
Because they speak Spanish.
And more people speak Spanish.
Well, in general, right? So there's a lot of I mean, if you're going to a taco truck, you're going to get a lot of Hispanic customers
that are looking for some Mexican food.
That are looking, maybe they're
authentic Mexican
like,
food.
We're in New Berlin. There's some Hispanics that live over there and they speak English really well.
If they want Mexican food, they can go to Chipotle.
Yeah,
no, I'm playing. I know
Bell.
That's the fake. The fakest Mexican food ever.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had a customer the other day ask if we could make their tacos like Taco Bell, but unfortunately we cannot because
was it not a Mexican?
It's not Mexican.
Was he not a Mexican?
No, he was not.
Of course, yeah. Those flour tacos with cheese on them and tomatoes. Blah.
Yeah.
I like mine the Mexican way with cilantro and onion.
And everybody says I want everything on it. It depends where we are. If some places that means cilantro and onion, some places that means lettuce, tomato, cheese, sour cream.
Ugh.
Some places that means everything.
Mm-hmm. Which tacos do you prefer?
Mexican.
Of course, yeah. Those are the good ones. I've always been a big taco fan. I didn't know that there was a difference between Mexican tacos and American tacos. And the time when I had I used to love American tacos. Like, they tasted good because that's all I knew. But ever since I've had the Mexican tacos, like, the American version actually tastes nasty. Like, I can't eat. Like, how did I used to like this? This is gross.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
On flour?
The one on flour,
so
flour with with cheddar cheese, whatever they put, the yellow cheese, lettuce, big tomato chunks, sour cream. Like, what the hell was I eating? Well, when you first started all your business ventures, was your family family and friends, were they supportive?
No, they never.
No, that was a fast no.
Friends and family will always be the last people to support if they ever do decide to support. In general,
I've
obviously
heard that.
You're gonna
How
have
come?
maybe your parents, your mom and your dad. Obviously, they're
Immediate family would probably
possibly, yeah. It depends.
I mean, I hope mom and dad and like brother and sister.
It also depends on, are they relatable to that business. A lot of people think that just because I'm selling candles, my family's gonna want candles.
Oh, that's true. Do they give a fuck about what you're doing? That's also fair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's a lot of things that come with it, So
they can't just buy your candles all the time just because your brother, brother Tony.
Well, I mean, on top of that, if they ever do support, I mean, what do they expect?
Mm-hmm.
What do they expect?
They expect it to like ROI for them.
They expect a discount.
A discount.
Or they expect
some type of return on investment, yeah.
Or they expect it to be free. And so, I've had people come up to even just like our taco truck or our pet grooming salon, and they're like, hook up, and we're like, no, because business is business and personal is personal.
Yes.
And you got to treat it that way. Mm-hmm. And that's why I kind of was telling you a little bit earlier, that's why I feel like that's why I get a lot of love and a lot of people. I understand that. And so every time I see entrepreneurs that are growing, if they are putting out a good product and have good service, I am there to support them. If they're selling T-shirts, I'm going to buy 8, 9, 10 of them. And I've done that for multiple people that sell them in this area, in the Milwaukee area. I want to support people because I know how it's like to build a business where nobody supports you, where nobody knows you, where people don't give you the time of day. That's just every single business that you continue to build is you're going to have to go through that process, even if you're an established brand, until you get to the point where you're like, for example, if I open up a taco truck, right? Or let's just say a taco restaurant, it's not going to get anywhere close to the amount of traction that if I open a Culver's, an established brand, right? A Culver's going to have line up the corner,
That's why some people prefer
months.
going into franchising and starting their own restaurant or whatever.
That's why people, not just franchises, but that's why it's becoming very common in the last year, at least from my perspective, I've seen a huge growth in other, not myself, but other entrepreneurs that are, much wealthier than I am and much more experienced. Instead of building more businesses, they're just buying businesses out that they see that they can bring value to.
I also heard the best way to be an entrepreneur was to build something and sell it and just keep on doing that.
I mean, it could be. It all just
like how you were talking about with your podcast. Like eventually you want to build it and sell it, right?
Most of my businesses I do want to sell. Like the pet grooming salon. Like that's why Tony is a brand, right? I myself am a brand. I sell tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from just Tony Romero.
Yeah.
Then there's Paw Perfecta. Then there's Romero's Taco Truck. Then there's, Proper Worth Group. Then there's Hustle Harder Community. I take myself out of those businesses because I don't want to be recognized as the guy that owns this. I am my own brand. Those businesses build their own brands.
I'm not trying to dig in your pockets or anything, but would you consider yourself a 7-figure earner?
Yes.
Woo!
As far as businesses go, gross, yes.
That's what's up. And do you feel like that would have been easier? Do you feel like is it an attainable thing to do?
7 figures?
Yes.
It's hard, but it's hard when you're starting because it's so far. But then as you actually start to do this, and a lot of you guys may have heard this on other podcasts from different millionaires, it becomes the same strategy to get from 0 to 100 and 100 to $1 million, and it really does. You start to understand that it's really not that far away, but you don't get to that point because your mindset doesn't change until you've at least hit 100K and you realize, oh shit, I thought that was going to be like way harder than it was, and it wasn't. And so I think a lot of people get comfortable. They think that making $10,000 a month in their business is great. They think that making $30,000 a month in their business is great. I mean, how do you survive off of that? And that's obviously something we say a lot between a lot of big friends. Like, you made $30K last month. How do you even survive, right?
Yeah, that's
because
y'all are ballers. So
because
you guys have different conversations than we do.
Well, that's nothing. I'm disappointed if we do that. We did a $50,000 deal, and my guys were going crazy, and I said, "What are you guys celebrating? We didn't do 100K."
Do you feel like you're gonna get to a certain point where you're doing so well that just basic conversations comes off as arrogance?
No, because at least I get what you're saying. I think that if I'm in a room where nobody's open-minded, I don't want to be there. And to be honest, I won't put myself in that position.
Yeah.
Even if it's family. If family is talking about dumb stuff and complaining, and I'm not going to sit there and listen to that. That's just going to kill my brain cells.
Because that will happen. Eventually, let's say you grew up with a group of friends and they're not really on the same type of entrepreneurial mindset as you, and you're making money. Eventually, you're just going to be at a point where your headspace is so focused on growth that they might look at you as arrogant.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it. So I've already kind of adapted from that from a very early age. From high school, the amount of people I talk to is 0. From grade school, the amount of people I talk to this day, even here and there, 0. From my family, the amount of people I talk to, besides my parents, is nobody.
Damn.
So I don't talk to grandparents. I don't talk to I don't talk to aunts and uncles or their cousins or nothing. I don't talk to cousins. So I've already established that in my life where I've stayed away from that. I guess that answers the question.
Because that type of stuff, it will mess with your mindset, and it could mess with your growth, especially because it's family, and you don't want your family thinking negative of you.
I mean, personally, like I'm at a point where I understand. I think about everything like a business, and I personally don't care about people's opinions.
I like that.
If I want to go build an OnlyFans today, I'll do it if I want to. Because I don't care
you're not down that bad building an OnlyFans.
I mean, it's an extra source of income. So
hey,
I thought
man,
about it.
Multiple sources of income all the time.
I'm not jacked yet, so it's coming soon.
It's coming soon. You feel like you got to be jacked for an OnlyFans?
Well, I mean, you can't be.
I feel like some people like that, Pudgy. You don't got to worry about it.
I mean, if I'm going to put out a product, it's going to be the best.
I like that mentality. Tony, you are the man. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Where can the people follow you on social media?
The Tony Romero. That's 2 N's. There's a lot of fake counts of me. I don't know why, but it's THETONNY, 2 N's, ROMERO. So yeah, you guys can follow me on there. We are also releasing our podcast. I'm not sure, exactly when, but within, from at some point, a couple weeks after this podcast, this podcast episode gets released, I'm sure Hustle Harder. So you guys can check that out or go to Hustle Harder Midwest or check out my profile. But those are ways to connect with me. You guys can also, I was going to give my phone number, but I don't remember the one that I usually give for the audience. So that's mainly the way. Dude, it was a pleasure being here. I love your journey and what you're doing. I'm here to support you, man. And it's, just super honored to be here.
Thank you, man. And it's an honor for you coming on the show. I have a lot to learn from you. You are deeply inspiring to me, and I'm sure you're going to be deeply inspiring to those who are watching this. It was an honor. Thank you so much for coming. I deeply appreciate it. Hope we can connect soon and we can have you on the show soon again. And thank you guys for watching another episode of the Greatly Destined Podcast, episode 6. See you guys next time.